there's a reason people associate art with things that are beautiful or things that are well done.
Cattle Call Podcast. We're out here. What day is it? October 13th, I believe. October 13th. And I'm here with a very special guest, Becka Matthews. Becka, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Welcome to podcasting. Is it anything like radio?
Anything like radio? No. When
No.
I was on the radio, it was very fast-paced.
Uh-huh.
I feel like there was a lot of yelling kind of going on of like people waving their hands, like making sure everything stayed on track because it's live.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like everything is so urgent.
So why were you on the radio?
I was on the radio, I guess it was 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Whenever, I don't know, maybe it was it was 2 years ago. Because the University of Memphis had a local rapper make this special song for the University of Memphis's football like promo or like intro video. You know what they play when like the football players come out of the tunnel.
Right.
And since I was on the Pom Squad at the time, they had like band members come and like dancers and everyone to the radio station for when the song first aired. It was like the first time anyone heard the song.
Was it that Al Capone guy?
Yeah, it was. That was it. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah,
I remember seeing one game. I think he performed. But the song, like he performed, it was like 15 seconds.
Right.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, he didn't do much. But, I mean, I thought the song was cool. It was like the Eye of the Tiger remix. I thought it was cool. But his performance, not memorable. I forgot about it until you said it just now.
It. Man, okay. So you were on the Pom Squad.
Yeah.
And now for all of our viewers, we have quite a bit in Memphis, but honestly, there's kind of a range all over the South.
Correct.
What is a Pom Squad, and is it unique to Memphis, or do they have them at most universities?
So I don't think having a dance team is not unique to Memphis. I think what is unique about Memphis is that everyone calls it the Pom Squad. It's kind of an old school term, like back in the 80s and like way before now, they called it the Pom Squad. And so now if dance teams do pom, which is a style of dance where you use pom-poms, you'll call them the Pom Squad.
Gotcha.
But we're really just the dance team.
Gotcha.
So,
but because of Memphis, it's the Pom Squad. But any other university would recognize it as a dance team.
Right. Yeah, it just kind of depends on where you go. Like the university, like UT Knox, they're not called the Pom Squad. They're called the dance team. But we do the same things that they do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's different than cheer.
Yes.
For the listeners.
Yes. Okay, that's what I want to talk about next. Because KK here, this is your roommate.
Yes.
Who's sitting out here with us, KK.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. You want to come talk on the mic real quick, KK? Want to say hi?
Yeah, say hi.
Hi, this is KK speaking.
Keeping up with KK.
Keeping up with KK. Yes.
We were talking about this before we came out here to record.
Right.
Because I was not aware, kind of, but not aware the differences between cheer and Pom Squad in Memphis. So how is Pom Squad, or dance teams to the rest of the universities, how is that different from a cheer team? Or is it cheer squad, cheer team?
Yeah, cheer team. The name is sort of, it just depends on where you go. But we definitely have different skill sets and different jobs. And like I was telling you earlier, like it makes sense that people confuse the two because we're both spirit squads. So we both have this responsibility of pumping up the crowd and like being ambassadors for the university and all of that good stuff. But on like a skill level and like when you're looking at what we do as a sport or as athletes, dancers, like the Pom Squad, all of the girls on the dance team are trained in dance. A lot of us grew up in studios. A lot of the girls on the Pom Squad have ballet training. They can do many different styles and just have lots of dance training. They were probably on their dance team in high school, all of that good stuff. Where cheerleaders, they're not trained in dance, not like ballet and hip-hop dancing. They are more trained in tumbling, which is doing like flips and stunting, which is where they lift each other into the air. And we kind of have our own versions of those sort of things that we do around competition season.
Okay.
But we don't do stunts on game day. We dance on game day.
And competition season is when they go down to Orlando. Is that
Yes.
competition season? Okay.
That is, well, we only have one competition that we prepare for each year, and that is nationals. So we basically prepare the whole year for this one competition to compete against other teams from across the country.
And how does Memphis do typically?
Oh, Memphis Pom is 14-time national champions.
Really?
Yeah.
Like consecutively or just total?
Not consecutively, just the University of Memphis Pom, they have 14 titles to their name. Yeah. So we're, not to brag, and I'm alumni now, so I'm just a has-been. But yeah, I mean, like when you tell people that you dance for Memphis or that you did dance for Memphis, anyone who knows anything about dance team as a sport is like immediately knows what a big deal that is.
Right.
I would say there's definitely a legacy. Like, it's legendary. And a lot of girls come to Memphis just for dance.
Is that what you guys did?
Yes. Yeah. My roommate KK, she came from South Carolina, and I'm from around here. I'm from Olive Branch, Mississippi, and so it's not like I came across the country to dance, but I definitely, like my high school dance team coach, she danced for Memphis, and growing up around here, it was like, it allowed me to have that as a role model. I was always seeing, my coach danced for Memphis, and I would go to this thing called show night, which is where the Pom Squad performs their nationals routine before they go to Orlando. So it's like a family and friends performance.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so in high school, I would go to show night before they left for Orlando. And I mean, like, that was just the coolest thing ever. And I remember, I guess it was my junior year, I went to show night and they performed, and I was just so in awe. And I remember looking at my mom and being like, Mom, I have to be out there. Like, I have to be on the floor in that uniform, like with those girls one day. And so, I got to live my dream for sure.
That's awesome.
It was cool.
How many national titles did you get to win while you were at Memphis?
Oh, sore subject, Isaac.
Oh no, I should have done some research then.
Yeah, you should have.
Oh no, what happened?
Gosh darn it. Well, I was on the Pom Squad for 3 years. This is my first year not on the team, by choice, might I add. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want anyone to think I just didn't make it back. Yeah. Because we have to try out every year.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not locked in when you accept a scholarship to go. It's just for that 1 year.
It's like very competitive.
Oh wow.
You have to really make sure that you're improving and contributing and on your A game, because you try out every single year.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's prestigious. Where was I? Oh, we were talking about nationals. Yeah. So let's see, for the 3 years that I was on the team, we got second place in the D1A hip hop division 2 years in a row. And then we got fourth last year. So almost had a title 2 times.
Yeah. What team
it's really sad.
Or what school beat you?
The University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
No kidding.
Thou who shall not be named. What is the phrase? We don't speak of UNLV.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of makes sense that if anyone's going to be good dancers, it's going to be all the Vegas ladies. You know?
Yeah.
Man, did they win both years?
Yeah. We lost. I know.
Man.
We got second to the same team twice. So sad.
Well, okay. I guess you can give them that. They don't do anything else. Like, they have occasional, like, a good basketball year.
Right.
Guy Fieri,
yeah, that is true.
Chef guy, he went there. Other than that, UNLV hasn't really done a whole lot ever.
That's true. Thank you for making me feel better about that. Yeah.
I guess we can just give them that.
Yeah, we'll let them have it.
There probably is a conspiracy in there about why they gave it to him anyway.
Right.
Because Memphis just played the New Year's Six Bowl.
Right.
And they're, basketball program. Anyway. Well, cool, man. And did you enjoy your time?
Oh, yeah. I loved it. I mean, like, just the way that it was something that I always dreamed of doing while I was in high school. And then, like, getting to live out that dream. It was just something where I was constantly like walking into a sold out stadium or stepping on the mat of the Nationals floor, thinking like, this is not real. Like this is just crazy. You know, it's just one of those moments where I was really getting to live out a dream. So I am very thankful for my time on the team because it was awesome.
Man, now how does it feel? Because I've been to a handful of basketball, football games. How does it feel before you guys go out there and like perform a dance in front of everyone? I mean, are you nervous, or is it so like deeply wired that you go, oh, I know all the choreography, we're going to be fine? Or are you just actually like, what if I mess this up? I mean, how does it feel?
I think it kind of depends. It can depend on what dance. It can depend on who it is. Like me versus one of my teammates might respond differently. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on the routine for me personally. Like if it was a dance that I felt really comfortable in, that had choreography that I knew really well, then yeah, I would maybe get like a healthy butterfly type of feeling, but not like just this overwhelming nerve. But if it was something like so there's this skill, it's called an aerial, and you do a cartwheel with no hands. And there were a few times where there was an aerial, which is a no-handed cartwheel.
Where you kind of you flip over on your side.
And there was a few performances where I didn't feel like very comfortable with that skill, and those routines I would definitely felt super nervous because it's like if you don't land it, it's just disappointing. You want to always hit your skills.
Right. And how long would you guys have to learn choreography? Would it change week to week? Or do you guys have a couple routines you kind of rotate all season?
We learn a lot of choreography. We have what are called band dances. So any song that the band ever plays, we have a routine. Okay. We have a different routine for every single song that they play. And that is like, gosh, KK, it's like upward of 20. Like 20 to 25 routines just for...
You made a face when she said it, so...
Yeah.
That's pretty...
Yeah, it's a lot. And we have, like, before school starts, we would have what's called, like, Hell Week, where we just practice every single day, and we really, like, drill those band dances and those band routines. And those are really, like, the first things that we learn in the season. And then... we'll learn what are called timeout dances, and those are to music, like that is recorded. So not things that the band play, but like hip hop songs, like things that are heard on the radio, throwback music, all that good stuff. Those are called timeouts. Those are a little bit longer. We might even change outfits for those. And we do those during I don't even know, one of the timeouts during the football games. And then when basketball season rolls around, we would do like 3 or 4 timeout dances. So we would go out at every quarter or every like fourth period of the games to do a different dance. So we learn a lot of choreography. And when you're older on the team, some of it starts to get reused and you don't have to learn new things every single time. But when you're coming in as a freshman, everything is new. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to learn, all of that.
So is it a pretty big jump coming from like the high school level of dance to something like Pom Squad? Or is it something like, oh, I've done this my whole life, I kind of know what to expect, this is just a little bit more intense? Or is it just one word like this is all new?
That's a great question. For me personally, it wasn't a crazy transition because my high school coach had trained under the coach of the University of Memphis, the legendary Carol Lloyd Cross.
Is she still
She
there?
Is still the coach.
How long has she been coach?
Oh, gosh.
Long time.
Like, I don't want to say a number because I don't want to be wrong, but she's been there a while, and she is amazing. But my high school coach trained under her and danced for the University of Memphis under her. And so I think her coaching style was, like, very much so modeled after Carol. And so I was kind of adjusted to a lot of those things. But for girls that come from, I was trained like through high school dance, like dance team. But that is a little different than a lot of my teammates. They grow up in a dance studio and that atmosphere is a lot different than dance team, which is like probably a whole other conversation we could get into. But those girls are like trained in ballet and jazz, and just probably it's just a different style like of learning. I think that you're in just a different world of dance that you're immersed in when you grow up doing studio dance. Gotcha. And I think for those girls to transition from studio dance to college dance team, Pom Squad, game day, all of that, I think that can be a more difficult transition. Gotcha. And I know that KK would agree. She's nodding her head. Yeah.
She's not, She'll have to come on sometime too, so we can include her. Do you have a sport you prefer being on Pom Squad with?
That's a great question.
How many sports did you guys have to like dance for?
We danced for all home football games, all men's basketball games, all women's basketball games at home.
Okay.
And then occasionally baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one did you favor?
I would have to say football, but we just had an amazing football season. So getting to like dance in that atmosphere of a sold out Liberty Bowl, and then for the Cotton Bowl, dancing in AT&T Stadium. I mean, nothing tops that. I don't care what anybody says. That those are some of the best feelings and memories ever. Like unmatched. Cool. Wow. Winning the championship, like the conference championship. All of those are like at the top of my best memories. As a sport, I sort of prefer basketball. I like how fast-paced it is, but as far as dancing, football was awesome. Yeah, just because the team was so much fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. That's got to be pretty easy to be involved in a good team, too.
Oh, for sure.
Now, when you guys did nationals, do you have to go through any different preparation, like for yourself personally, when you're competing at nationals, or is it one of the same, like, hey, it's just like any other dance?
Oh, absolutely not.
Really?
It is absolutely not like any other dance. We would have, 8 to 10 hour long practices over Christmas break. We practiced every day of Christmas break. I would be lucky to get like 3 to 5 days off for Christmas. So we practice all over. I keep saying this like present tense. This is past tense, but anyway, we would practice all over Christmas break, and then, nationals would be in January. So that was like New Year's was crunch time, and it is nothing like the way that we prepare for a game is much more, it's lower stakes, and we prepare it and work hard on it, but the nationals routine, that is like a 2-minute dance that we pick apart and spend hours perfecting. Man. All the way down to your pinky toe everything has to be perfect for it. So it's rigorous.
And do you miss any of that rigor now that you're out of it? Or is it like, I'm glad I had that experience, but I'm also glad it's done?
I think I'm leaning towards that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I love the athleticism and like just the way that preparing for something like that and being a part of a program that was so legendary, the way that makes you feel, like that sort of adrenaline of like preparing and working so hard for something is cool. But I feel very content in the chapter that I'm in. Yeah. And I feel like I look back on it and I'm like, oh yeah, that was awesome. But I also don't look at it and think, oh, I wish I was still doing that. Like I feel like I've moved on.
That's healthy.
To the next thing.
That's good.
So yeah.
And speaking of which, what are you doing now? What is your next thing? My
next thing. Well, the reason that I couldn't dance this year is because I am student teaching. So my major is, I'm an art major. It's a BFA. And then my concentration is art education. And so I've kind of spent all of college taking studio art classes. And then this year is really focused on the education aspect of my degree. And I am student teaching at, I'm not sure if I guess I can say, because everyone knows where I'm teaching. I'm student teaching at Collierville High School. In an art, they have multiple art teachers, but I'm student teaching in an art classroom at Collierville High School. And I
Gotcha.
go every day, all day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
7:30 to 2:30. And I'll be doing that until I graduate. So it's all year in that one classroom. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of how we met real quickly is I had an art history class I had to take. You were in there.
Yes.
And honestly, I can say, because it's my podcast, you were about one of the only other people in there that didn't look like they were an art major.
Because
it was so...
You took the words out of my mouth.
I think we might be the two people that kind of look like...
Absolutely.
We hang out together.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
No, you're really a standout. I was like, oh gosh, that's like a normal looking, like masculine kind of like. Why is he being forced to take this?
Yeah.
And then what really threw me off is that you were not only, just since you said it first, I feel comfortable joking about this, but yeah, you were not only just like, you looked like we could be friends. And you also were not just like miserable in the class, you know, like you were always asking questions and you seemed sort of interested. So I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I was intrigued by it. So,
and here we are a couple years later.
Yeah, here we are.
So why did you decide art? What was your upbringing like? Why are you interested in art? First, how do you define art?
I think I had a professor who kind of defined art as like, I don't think everyone has this view, but like the art of is like when something is good or when you are like, it's like the best version of something or you're like mastering something. So I always kind of viewed art as like, you know, there's a reason people associate art with things that are beautiful or things that are well done, you know? And so yeah, art to me, it's kind of like, this is just that's a hard question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm conveying that,
no,
but tough.
Yeah, I feel like no matter how you
question.
define it, other people in the art community, you're like, no,
for sure.
You can't limit art to just that. Because I think art is, like, as simply as I can put it, like, it's just anything you create.
Right.
You know, because then you think fashion design, you're like, oh, fashion design, that like so effeminate.
Right.
Like somebody's got to design like hunting clothes, you know, like waiters and like flannel shirts. I mean, someone's got to design that.
True.
Like that, and that's like, you know, quote masculine.
Right.
But like even that's art, or even this podcast.
And some people would disagree.
Art. Yeah, and they're like, oh, that's not art at all. That's a gross looking flannel.
And I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
So
I
that's
just think
art's hard to define.
If someone is creating something and then putting their best effort into that and like working to make it the best that they can.
Right.
You know? I don't know.
And how did you get into art?
Gosh, well, I always was making and creating and drawing and painting as a kid. My mom would give me rolls of tape at church just to keep me busy, like just to keep me quiet.
Rolls of tape?
Yeah. Like kids now, they get smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
Not me.
Like,
I got a roll of tape. They're like, here you go.
What would you do with the tape?
When I was really little, I don't know. I always kind of had a fascination with like things that were sticky, like stickers and stuff. I remember making cubes out of tape, just little tiny cubes out of tape. But yeah, I don't know. It just would kind of preoccupy me. But anyway, I always liked art, and I think my parents noticed at a young age that it was something that I was good at and interested in, and kind of were always really supportive. And I didn't have an elementary art teacher. Maybe I did a couple of times, but not like, I don't think at my school it was in the curriculum. Like, I think the only art I got at my school was maybe like one grade, like second grade or something. Okay. So it wasn't required at my elementary school. And so then my parents were kind of like, oh, okay, she has this thing that she's good at, and like we need to, what's the word? We need to, you know, like nudge her and help give her something that will help her grow in this area. And so I took private art lessons in middle school with Jennifer White. She's kind of a local artist herself. And she was amazing, and I was able to like develop my skills. And then in high school, I just kind of dabbled in art. I took art classes, took AP art. And I never wanted to be an artist, like for a living, ever. And I actually entered college as a physics major.
Oh, wow.
Because I always wanted to teach. I never I was like, oh, art is a hobby, not a career, you know, like it just didn't seem realistic. But I always wanted to be a teacher. And so my master plan was to get a physics degree and become a high school physics teacher. And I looked at the degree plan and it was like math, all math, which is not my thing. And so I had an assistant principal who was a teacher of mine, and then he became an assistant principal, and he was like, Becca, I got an art degree. I went to college for art and then became a teacher afterwards, and you can go to school for something that you really love, something you really enjoy, and worry about the teaching thing later.
Right.
And so I decided to switch my major because the University of Memphis is one of very few colleges that offers art education as a degree.
Kidding.
Like a lot of places don't have art education. They'll have like art or education. You can't do a combination of both. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. I just decided to do it as like I guess I'll do art just so I don't have to do all those math classes. I guess it's something I'm kind of good at. And then it ended up just being like I wasn't even sure I wanted to be an art teacher when I first changed my major. And now I'm like, that's all I want to do. That's all I can imagine myself.
Is being an art teacher.
Is being an art teacher. Yeah.
At what level?
High school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be so great. I had a fantastic high school art teacher. She was also a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so I remember we hit it off. But yeah, she was one where she just, I don't know, like occasionally I'll think about it, like, yeah, she was a great teacher.
What made her a great teacher?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I just opened the door for that. I think just the way, like, she made it so, because art is so hard to like grade, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was one of those where as long as you were like trying and making progress and you weren't pressured into it, and also she too like was very normal. She was like a newlywed. She was pretty. She was like great sense of humor. She was a Chiefs fan. I remember she came up to me. So we had like our introductory class, you know, for the year. And then next class, she came up to me. She's like, I noticed on your page, like, you know, all the little questions. It was like your favorite sports team. I was like, Kansas City Chiefs. So she came up to me. She's like, I'm also a Chiefs fan. My husband's a Chiefs fan. We're from Missouri. Blah. So anyway, so I kind of already liked her.
Nice.
But then like she was such a regular person. And it was so like where you're coming in at, as long as you're getting better.
Right. For
and
sure.
there's some people that they just like, I'm not great at art, honestly. And there's people in there that they struggle even more.
Right.
But it's like, how are you going to grade them compared to me and compared to these people that are way better than me? And it was always like meeting them where they're at.
Right.
And just helping them just get a little bit better. And that's kind of what she did. And we hit so many different types of projects, and she was just so like normal.
Nice.
And like the approach, it wasn't just like this real, you know, abstract
out there,
or
hippie
arbitrary
kind of thing.
like figure it out. So yeah, she
Nice.
was just a good teacher for sure.
Nice.
And we had just cool different projects. I don't know. I remember one we had to make like a I don't even know, not a painting. It was like you had some picture, but your medium was like magazines. Oh. And you would rip up pictures out of magazines. Yeah. And you'd make a collage, but
Nice.
pretty much you were just picking like the hues.
Okay.
And then you'd of course have like the shades and the tints off of that.
Wow.
And so
Hit me with the art terms, Isaac.
Oh, dude. I want to be correct in front of
Yeah.
art people. And if there's the art community listening, I'm like, this guy doesn't know anything that he's talking about. First he said art was making flannels for hunters, and then now, yeah. So but then we had like the glue with the paste, and you would put it down.
Right.
And then we had the one where you made like the print, like the block, and it was like rubber, and you carve it out, and I carved out a German Shepherd laying on a rug, and you would like make like print, you dip it in ink, and you print this. I don't know. There's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
What's your favorite kind of art to do?
I kind of hate when people ask me this. If I have to answer, I'll say painting. I feel like that's where I feel the most comfortable. I've always enjoyed painting.
Yeah.
But honestly, like the appeal of becoming a teacher and also an art teacher is I feel like to be a good art teacher, you need to be well-rounded.
Right.
And kind of be able to enjoy all of the different styles. Because who am I to say, oh, well, I only like painting, so we're going to spend a lot of time on painting this year. And then you're like neglecting all of these kids who have passions in other areas, and that's what I love about being an art teacher. So I love all of these different mediums and styles in art. And that's what's exciting about being able to be an art teacher, is it gives me a chance to do them all and kind of like share what I know about all of them. So, but yeah, painting is my short answer.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you like to paint?
That's a great question too. Well, so right now I do commissions. That's where people like ask you to, they'll be like, hey, will you make this piece of art for me? And I do watercolor paintings, a lot of engagement photos. That's like highly requested.
So someone brings you an engagement photo.
Yeah.
Do you do like a watercolor of it, or?
But I do not use watercolor paint. I use washable markers, and then I'll show you pictures later.
Oh wow, yeah. I've seen a couple. I think I liked your page on Facebook or something.
Okay, cool.
So occasionally I'll see some painting that someone commissioned.
So that's what I do, like, to make money, I guess.
Yeah.
Some of the most fun I've had in college was with sculpture. I took 3 sculpture classes. I went really far into the sculpture. And last year we did a bunch of metal casting. We cast aluminum for the whole semester, and it was incredible. Like if I could just have the chance to cast metal in my backyard, I would do it, because it was awesome. It's just not very accessible.
Yeah. So how do you make art casting metal? I mean, what's the process of that?
We did a number of different processes. There's a lot of different ways. My favorite was called styrofoam displacement method. And basically you take styrofoam and then you put it in imagine like a giant soup can, okay? Just like a metal can. And then you pour sand all around the styrofoam, okay? Are you following?
So far.
Okay, great. So
once you get all physics on me, you might lose me.
So when you pour the hot metal into, you also have to create like a little funnel. When you pour the hot metal in, the sand resists it. So the hot metal does not affect the sand, but it burns away the styrofoam. And so when it's done and it's cooled, you just take it out, and the sand, you just brush the sand off, and you're left with an aluminum. Well, we were doing aluminum. You could do this with many different kinds of metal, but you're left with like a metal version of whatever you created in styrofoam. Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually had a piece in a gallery for that I did with that method.
What was it? What was in the gallery?
It was like these, I actually used styrofoam cups
to
make them, but they were like these abstract sphere sort of shapes in aluminum. They're pretty cool. I like
that.
Them
Is
a
pretty
lot,
cool. I wonder how someone figures out something like that. Like the whole process of we just pour some hot metal.
Ancient old.
How long? Okay, what other stuff works besides styrofoam? 'Cause how long has styrofoam been around?
I don't know.
We know how long it stays around, but how long is it?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I did another project also. It was kind of similar to that, but a lot more complicated. And we built the form out of wax.
Oh wow!
And then we put the wax into this, again, like a cylinder type of shape that we built out of chicken wire, and you cover it with a sort of material, and then you put the wax inside the cylinder and you pour plaster over it.
Wow.
The plaster dries, you put it in the kiln. The plaster stays, the wax melts out. You following?
Yeah.
Okay. And then so you're left with...
And the kiln does nothing to the chicken wire.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it does nothing to the chicken wire, does nothing to the plaster. It only melts out the wax.
Wow, that's cool.
And so then
that's cool.
The next day or whatever, you have like a mold in the plaster, and you pour the metal into that. And then it's not as easy as the styrofoam. With the styrofoam, you just brush the sand off. I was literally slamming my piece against the ground to get the plaster off. Like I was throwing this chunk of plaster and metal to the ground, like trying to get, and I had to take a chisel. It was a whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Art, man. So do you have a favorite artist or anyone that kind of you use as precedent for any of your stuff?
Yeah, I would say my favorite famous artist is Frank Stella. And
what style is Frank Stella?
I'm
going to Google while you're talking.
Yeah, Google him. So what you would recognize by him is like his super minimalist paintings from like the modern art.
Love modern art.
Yeah, he's a modern artist. But his paintings aren't what I like. I like his sculptures. So look up his paintings and then look up.
Oh, like that?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you would recognize.
Is he still alive? No. Yeah, he is. He's 84 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
So look up his sculpture now.
Okay.
And his sculpture is super cool.
Sculpture.
So he's like a famous artist that I love. I love modern art. And then
which one? You can kind of
any of them.
Oh, just any of them?
Yeah, any of them. I think they're really neat.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting.
But there's a painter, her name is Allison James, and I like her a lot too. You can find her on Instagram.
Man, he has some of his used artwork on eBay is like $40,000.
Oh no.
$25,000, $28,000.
Wow.
Stuff people own. Wow. And then one of his prints is almost $4,000.
It's crazy.
Wow. So Frank Stella's pretty sought after. I wasn't familiar with him.
Yeah.
Why do you like guys like Frank Stella? I mean, because to like a lay person, they walk into an art museum and they go to Frank Stella's little exhibit, and then they go, "How is that art?" So how do you defend that?
How do I defend that?
Like if someone comes to you and go, "Why do you like him? How is that art?"
I've always liked abstract art. And it's controversial. A lot of people hate abstract art. To me, his paintings or like his sculpture is kind of like a 3-dimensional painting.
Right.
And I love that concept of like a painting, something so colorful and like energetic, being like 3-dimensional. I think that's really cool. But I don't know. It's like, yeah, someone could say, how is that art? But then you think about how much effort he probably put into crafting something like that.
Right.
And all of the skills that he had to use. And sometimes when people say things like that, I want to ask them, well, could you make that? And there are some things that are a piece of crap.
Yeah.
You know, I see things, I'm like, okay, that's not good.
Or the one where like there's like the one line and it's like 2/3 of the way over the canvas. There's like the one line coming down.
Yeah.
You know, like there's stuff like that where people go, well, I could do that.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I understand. I understand those people out there. If you're one of those people, I understand. But yeah, I mean, I think in his case, that clearly it takes a certain level of like craftsmanship, which is neat.
Oh, for sure. Was it I don't want to be wrong. I almost want to say it was Chuck Close.
He is a portrait artist.
Because didn't he make like massive? Was he the one where he had the massive portraits and he had to use like a lift? Because didn't he have like a health?
I don't know. I know what his art looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know his story.
I feel like there was one. I remember there was one, and he had some health thing, and he had to use a certain lift because he would use these like it'd be massive pieces. So if like it was a portrait, it was a massive like an entire wall of a portrait, and he'd have to. And he'd almost like put it in tiles, and he would go up there.
Yes.
I feel like
gridding is a really common thing.
The word,
and
yes.
Chuck Close, he takes like, let's say I took a photo of you and I put a grid over it, and then he makes each individual square like their own colors, sort of. So from afar, it looks like a portrait, but then up close, they're like all these tiny squares with circles in them.
Yes.
But it's super common for mural artists to grid their artwork. And when you're doing anything on that sort of scale.
It may not have been him. I'm looking at his Wikipedia. I don't see anything about. It's about sexual harassment allegations. That's not what I was thinking about.
Oh boy. I have done a couple of murals. I would love to do more murals. Actually, do you know what I mean when I say a mural?
Do you mean a mural?
Like,
well, I'm thinking like on a wall.
Okay, like.
What classifies a mural? What size?
I classify a mural as like a painting on a wall.
Okay,
like
that's
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have done murals?
I have. Yeah.
Where at?
I did one mural with.
We have fact checker KK over here.
Yeah, she's like.
Oh wow.
Oh well, you haven't listened to Armchair Expert, but she's like, what's Dax Shepard's assistant? I forgot her name.
I know it's Jamie on Joe Rogan. I know that.
Anyway, you're doing great,
wow.
KK. But I did one at the Juvenile Detention Center downtown. And with...
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What'd you do? How'd you land that one?
Well, I took
really good.
a class that was all about mural painting. The whole class. It was called Mural Painting as a Public Art. And our project for the semester was, our professor wanted us to do something sort of social justice based, and we didn't really go that direction totally, but we after we brainstormed ideas, we spent like 4 or 5 weeks going to the juvenile detention center during our class periods. Instead of going to campus, we would go downtown and we would just draw with the boys for like an hour or two.
The boys that were in that detention center.
Yes.
So you like work one-on-one and
there would be
they would draw too? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just like it was a lot of things. I mean, it was a great experience. And getting to draw with them was such a impactful experience, and just getting to see them make art and see how universal art is as a language, like seeing these kids that are obviously not in a great situation, still being able to like express themselves and enjoy themselves through drawing. And so we would have to bring in charcoal because like we couldn't bring in anything else would be considered a weapon, right? And so we would just bring in charcoal and like these huge sheets of newsprint paper, and we would draw with them, and our goal was just to get to know them and to just figure out like what they're about, what we wanted to know from them. Like, if you had to walk past this wall every single day, what would you want to see there? Yeah. And so we went in expecting them to give us these ideas, and we ended up just using their drawings. And so what we did was scan all of the drawings that they did over the weeks that we'd spent with them, and then projecting them. And we did these huge letters, hope was the word that we decided on. And then like inside each letter were drawings that of course we painted them, but they were like things that they had drawn. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was amazing. And then I've done one other mural at a local. Was it the one that KK just showed me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was cool. That was the dance studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what medium was that? Was that just paint?
Yeah. I think we used a very specific brand of paint when I did it with my class. I think for that it was just like wall paint. Like an oil based. Yeah. Or I don't know.
And how long did that one take? Just not the whole process, but you going there and having just paint that wall.
I did that wall by myself in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
It looked good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty productive 2 days.
Yeah. And those figures were, for the people listening that don't know what it looked like, it was like abstracted dance, like figures, silhouettes kind of on a wall. And the silhouettes are inspired by her actual dancers. She sent me a ton of photos of her dancers, and so I just kind of like took those and turned them into these like silhouettes and designed it small and then projected it onto the wall. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, kind of moving into our last section here.
All right.
We can talk about just stuff going on in the world just through your lens here. Just with art, because you're kind of talking about with the detention center. How has, I guess, just like studying art and, I mean, doing it, whether it was commissioned or just for fun or just growing up, and even Pom, like, I mean, that's even dance is a form of art. So how was like your love of art and all of your time spent in art, how has that started to shape the way you just view the world, view people, view life, view just everything?
I think a few things. I think I'm always noticing everything is very visual for me, and when I go anywhere, I'm always thinking, like, even if it's something so random, I'm like, oh, I like the way that tree looks, or, like it could be something so random. I think I'm always kind of taking in things that I think are, like, just things that I like, that I see. But deeper than that, with me going into art education, I now feel this great responsibility of, like, obviously I'm like gonna be molding the minds of young students. That's why like that's a lot of the reason why anyone becomes a teacher. But specifically with art education, one thing that I have realized is how limited the art education and art in general is very westernized.
Okay.
And if you type in something into Google, like let's say I'm writing a lesson plan and I want a abstract painter, what is going to come up? All white males, old white men. It's like when I look up
like
artists,
a Frank Stella.
right? Yeah.
Okay.
And like that is just how it is. Like in art history, what are you studying? Mostly white male artists. Just when I'm looking up artists to refer to in curriculum, that is what is common. And so now that I'm moving into my career and I'm going to have my own classroom next year, that is something that I didn't know would be a goal of mine. That is now a goal of mine, is to try to diversify what my students are being exposed to as far as art. Like, I don't want to write all of my lesson plans and every single artist that I ever refer to is a old white man artist. There's so many different cultures of art, and there's so many different, just so much diversity out there that should be recognized. Different countries, female artists, like even women, it's hard to find women artists in curriculum. And I went to a lecture, and the speaker had this great activity where, of course, I'll probably butcher it now.
Yeah.
But she was like, okay, I'm going to read off these phrases, and I want you to finish the sentence. And one of them was like, all right, if you want your baby to be smarter when they grow up, you should play blank while you're pregnant. And everyone says like Beethoven, or they'll say, oh, well, he's pretty good, but he's no blank. And like whatever people fill in, they'll say like Picasso, that's an old white man. Or like, I don't know. It was just like all of these different phrases that people naturally go to not a very diverse picture of who artists are or what art is. And I want my students to feel like there is more for them in art, and that there are people that they can look up to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, just provide like more.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I guess just from like an artistic, standpoint, you have to be able to identify with someone.
Right. Yeah.
Because like I guess once you said it, I can't think of any like female artists.
Right.
Because I always think about like your Frank Stella or your Picasso, your
for sure,
Monet or
Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah,
like
I love Norman Rockwell, so it's like
anyone that you think of.
I can't think of a female artist though.
Yeah. So even just finding female artists is a challenge. Like I literally have to type in like whatever the criteria is, and then I'll put woman at the end just to try to get
someone.
Just because I think there are amazing artists like Frank Stella. I don't want to take away credit from artists that are amazing, that are greats, that should be studied, that I have looked up to, that are white males. I'm not saying that. I just want to provide more.
Open up to more.
Yeah, and just just have a more diverse view, and just provide that for my students. And because kids don't think art is relevant to them otherwise. Kids are like, oh, well, I'm never going to be an artist when I grow up. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And there's tons of people that are making art in other careers or implementing art into technology.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I just feel this responsibility to like show kids that there's more to art than like these basic things that are
right.
that are so typical. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a quote too, probably in history class, where it was saying that art is a reflection of the time period in which it's created.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, because that's one thing too. Like I said, I mean, I don't know if it's a product of upbringing or like the culture, the time in history.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, art always kind of gets this bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was one. I didn't realize I was so invested in our class, but I love the Renaissance. Like I love that era of stuff, and that was what we were going through. It was a lot of like Egyptian,
right?
And then we got into the Renaissance. I can't remember where we ended stuff at, but that was a time period, and like that was so, like just monumental because that was reflecting. There was this change in ideology all across that part of the world.
Absolutely.
And like the Renaissance movement, and all of it, like with literature and poetry and art and like sculpture, like all forms of art,
right?
Painting. I mean, it was all being reflected there. So like what we know about the Renaissance is what was captured and like in its art.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, kind of like they'll probably look back at 2020 and be like, oh, look at all that art they had.
Right. Yeah.
And they think they don't have any today, but kind of how it feels now is like, well, it's kind of, let's look down at like, oh, that's just some weird like Woodstock kind of thing. Like,
right.
Like we were talking about earlier, like the people that don't wear shoes. Like, oh, that's all art is, but man, there's a lot more to it than just that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is that's definitely noble. So that's what you look forward to most about just the education side is just getting to like impact these individuals, show each individual the significance of art.
Yes. Yeah, I work with, so I have a part-time job at Lausanne, which is like a local private school, and I teach there once a week. Fourth graders. I teach art to fourth graders, but my student teaching is in a high school. Okay. So it's been interesting to like have them both at the same time, and they're just so different. And I found that with the younger kids, you don't have to ask a fourth grader to be creative. Like you give them a prompt, they're going to come up with something you would have never even thought of. Like kids are just naturally so creative, or that's what I've found. But the behavior is what is hard to manage.
Yeah.
They're like running around, they
kidding.
Won't stay in their seat, etc. But with the high schoolers, it's sort of the opposite of that, where they're well behaved. If anything, it's like pulling teeth to get them to talk to you or to be creative or emotional or anything. They want, high schoolers, they just kind of want to go through the motions. So that is a challenge that I like. And I like that in the high school age. I'm just trying to get them to, this doesn't have to be your career. You don't have to be an artist, but just give me effort, you know? And I appreciate that challenge of the older students versus the younger students, of just trying to show them like, hey, art is relevant to you. Even if you think you want to be an engineer or an accountant or whatever, it's still, you can enjoy it. It can be relevant to you. So that is what I
that's
look
awesome.
forward to.
That's awesome. Do you think there's anything like any forces that are suppressing creativity over the years? By fourth grade, I mean, kids are drawing on desk, but by 11th, 12th grade, it seems like you said, it's pulling teeth to get them to just be creative.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what kind of stuff you think is suppressing that creativity over the years?
Right. I don't know where I heard this. I think maybe my mom was telling me that she saw something on Facebook, where all the great quotes are found.
With all the independent fact checkers.
But anyway, it was just something like kind of discussing how boredom is what leads you to do things like learn how to play the guitar or learn how to, you're bored, so you start throwing the ball against the wall, and then what that sparks an interest, or you're bored and you start making things and drawing, and now there's like no chance. There's just not this opportunity for kids to ever be bored, because if they're bored, what do? They turn on the TV, they get on their phone, video games, there just doesn't like, and I think even when I was a kid, I had more opportunity for that than now. I mean, I was never like just immediately going to an iPad every time I was bored. And so I think that is kind of suppressing creativity. I think technology can be utilized for art, but I don't know.
Have you watched The Social Dilemma, either of y'all?
No.
On Netflix?
I started it.
You started it?
I have not.
Yeah, I mean, it talks technology and social media, but I mean, not that. I mean, there's probably always been stuff at play prior to this, but
right.
I don't know, man. That's pretty eye opening.
I need to watch
what's going on with people's mental health because of all the stuff we're being exposed to. I mean, think about sensory overload. If it's like I'm always being hit with stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
That it's like, I don't know. Like, yeah, you said you don't have the opportunity to get bored because you're always being hit with something. And it's just taking too much. And okay, I'm gonna leave this to go to this one. Like, there's too much just distraction here, so I'll just go like scroll over here instead.
Right. For
like
sure.
You're not getting any time. Let's just be quiet.
Yeah.
Let's just chill.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Man. Well, anything else you want to cover, touch on before we sign off? Anything? Any great advice, great quotes, great book recommendations?
Great quotes. Great
anything
advice.
Anything you want to leave listeners with?
I'm just gonna think about it for a second.
Yeah. You can think. Where can people find your stuff? Where can they commission you for pieces? Or where can they follow?
Oh,
where
yeah.
Can they...
This is where I get to plug my social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, if you want to keep up with my day-to-day adventures, you can follow me at Becka Matthews, and my name is spelled Becka.
And then Matthews
with 2 T's. And then I have a separate account for all of my art and teaching stuff.
Okay. Is that on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is at Becka Matthews Art. Very cut and dry.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah, but go follow me. And
I
post my artwork.
Or anything?
Yes,
okay.
I'm on Facebook also, but I basically just link all of my Instagram stuff to Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
But I put all of my teaching stuff and personal work and all of that on there.
On Becka Matthews Art.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of teaching stuff, because that's mostly what I'm doing these days.
That's right, man. Okay. Anything else you want to leave people with?
It's too much pressure to ask someone that.
I know. That's where people want the questions ahead of time.
Yeah, right. I should have thought of something beforehand so that I could be poetic.
Are we gonna convince KK to record a podcast after this?
Yeah. 2 in 1. How you feeling, KK?
Right now.
In 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes.
That's where
we could get you some coffee.
Some of the good stuff. Yeah, I think my Dan mug. Oh yeah, so I got this Dan mug. You'll see it in the picture.
Oh yeah.
And that's named after our fact checker's dog. Right. Yeah. So
Dan the man.
Dan the man.
Right.
Becka, thank you for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, not as fast paced as radio, huh?
No, I enjoyed it. I love to talk.
How long do you think we talked?
It's my favorite thing. I talk a lot. I'm gonna say over an hour.
We hit 57 minutes.
Yes.
So very close. You know yourself.
Wow.
And now people know you too.
That's great.
So keep up with Becka Matthews, Becka Matthews Art.
Absolutely.
And if you are going to get engaged anytime soon and you want a watercolor rendition of your engagement photos, you know where to find it.
Don't bombard me.
Yeah.
I'm a busy girl.
Ring before spring. All right, Becka. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
We will see you on the other side.
All right.